must be you and I. It's got me thinking about us more. It's these bright lights, they put me in a daze, and I can't stop but think about the way that you move around up and down on that stage. It's your future vibes.
Hello everybody, welcome back as ever to Building Blocks, where we program Minecraft mods live on camera. And last time we were working on the active spells screen, which is the system that will hopefully allow us to control our spells no matter where in the world we are, even if the chunk is unloaded where they are, that kind of thing. So actually building a UI is perfect. Okay, there we go. So I'm sure what you're saying is lovely, but I can't hear you. Okay, yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Right. So, as I just entered there, welcome back to Building Blocks, where we program Minecraft mods live on camera. And quite frequently, things go horrifically awry, not unlike that. But last time, we were working on the active spells screen, a new UI screen that will allow you to end or otherwise control spells regardless of their location in the world or dimensions, and regardless of whether or not they're even loaded for that matter. And that means that you'll be able to do things that we have basically had absolutely no capacity to do up until now. It also meant a massive rework of the spells that we had existing. There's something like 50 different spells, and I had to fix basically every single one of them just to get even part of this working. But now all spell operations happen server side, and you're just informed of all of yours and all the ones that are in your vicinity. So consequently, that allows us to have a lot of more control over the server and over the spells and whatnot, and allows us to do a bunch of fun things like the active spell screen. So, we now have a button in the inventory for said screen, and also we actually have a back to inventory icon. I'm not sure if I'm keeping this one, I might change it to just like a little human being kind of image, but yep, we go here. And there is our spell. We can click on that, we can rename it. This screen automatically refreshes when it's idle, so you don't necessarily have to go back out and come back in if there's a new spell that changes, that sort of thing, which will happen quite a bit because you're frequently being updated. But this screen only updates like every so often, because if it updated constantly, you wouldn't be able to actually change anything up here. In fact, you currently can't because it doesn't actually go anywhere. So, yeah. It also updates every time you click out of one, so yeah. But we have all the back end of that, so we should hopefully be able to fix things up today by hooking up the active spell screen to the server, which is why this particular stream is called Touching the Cloud, because that's basically what we're doing, attaching a client-side UI to the server side. And let's start with the most auspicious thing, changing the name. There is another change I did actually make with regards to that. It was a request. If we go down to client, we actually have a new boolean, which is hide custom spells names. If true, displays the default names for non-owned spells in the active spells screen, ideal for servers whose players cannot be trusted to keep things civil. It was pointed out to me, and it was a very valid point, that if people can just rename things and other people have to see those names, there is a non-zero chance that people will use them to be utterly horrible human beings. So having a config option to client-side prevent that, pretty handy. It's not exactly a blacklist of people, which would be much more versatile, but handy nonetheless. So yeah, if you're playing this on a multiplayer server where you're not necessarily familiar with everyone, or maybe you're just not friends with everybody on that server, you can just switch that if you think they'll abuse that. But okay. Now, in order to actually have our server and our client hooked up in any fashion, we need to have a packet. Fairly straightforward in that regards. And we're going to call this packet active spell update. Seems a decently explanatory name. And we're going to extend that out of that. And our T value is that, of course. And finish. Okay. So there's the bare meat and bones of this. Okay. So, all of the spell data is wrapped up inside of MBT when the server goes into storage. So, we should be able to use that as an MBT tag compound to store an entire spell data, shoot that across to the server, and it can overwrite what it has on its end with that. But there are only 3 major things that the active spell screen needs to do, 2 of which are actually handled mostly by, like, the server. That is dismissing, and that is changing the name. Those are the only 2 things this packet actually needs to care about, because editing now happens via iMagic effect. So if we go to, let's see, where are you? Is editable and edit. There we go. Opens the corresponding UI for editing variables of this spell, given a given spell data. So, is editable determines what spells you can actually edit once they've been cast. Right now we have all spells displaying the edit button, but eventually it'll just be the ones that can be edited. And then we only need to have to worry about those 2 values, the name and if we are dismissing it. So, we need a boolean saying dismiss, which will start at false. Theoretically, if you're dismissing something, you're not also changing the name of something, so we could make this even simpler by just having it be a string. So, call that spell name, blip, equals blub blub. If blub blub there, if the spell name is length 0, then we are presuming that we are dismissing it instead of anything else. If instead it is longer than that, we're presuming we change the name. Okay, very straightforward, very streamlined. You ideally want packets to be as small as you can manage, because especially if they're happening a lot, it's a lot of like bandwidth and uptime, that kind of thing. And then there's one thing that we definitely need, which is a spell ID. If we don't have a spell ID, we don't know what spell we're trying to change the name or whatever of anything. So, packet active spell update int par1 int and the string par2 string. Okay, let's start with that, and then we'll also have one that just takes an integer, which we will use whenever we are trying to dismiss. Okay, I'm just gonna move around read and write because I always get them mixed up when they're not in that organization. What is your complaints? Return type. Return type for the... I'm definitely missing something there because that doesn't make any sense. Constructor of call must be... It is. Where are you being separated? Oh, I see what's happening. Okay. The tiniest of typos. Okay, so this only happens on the server side. So we need the worlds, which we can get from the player there. And then we need the world saved data spells, which we can also get via the world. And then we need to get the spell in question, so spell data spell equals spells dot get by ID. That will be our spell ID. We haven't stored this actually in the buffer just yet, but we'll get to that. If spell equals null, then just return. Turns out there's not a spell by that ID, which is to say maybe it got dismissed or destroyed or otherwise midway through this execution. Else. So, if spell name dot length equals 0 and spell dot get spell dot is dismissible, and the button shouldn't be visible in this. It shouldn't be functional at the very least if it isn't dismissible. So there's that. So we shouldn't actually need to do that. A lot of things that happen on that regard are the server doesn't care because it shouldn't ever receive a message from the client saying it should, which is definitely one kind of input validation. If your clients, if the player is unable of sending a message to the server that would be erroneous for whatever reason, then the server doesn't really need to worry about it being erroneous because it theoretically should never receive one. But if there's a man-in-the-middle attack or something else, then your server can be given a whole ton of erroneous information that it shouldn't normally be receiving, but which might cause massive problems. Just something to be wary of. I'm presuming no one's going to crack into a Minecraft mod to send a weird spell, but if they wanted and they managed it, they could easily send the server a message that says just to shut down every single spell. Just by the by. Yeah. So let's see. Need to check our spell dispel. That's the one. Need to remember the exact methodology I used. Set dead. Yep, good. Set dead within that world. Which, given that we are in different dimensions, might not be the world we actually want. So I'm trying to think. Yeah, if we get it by the worlds, then it's not necessarily going to be right. If you're in a different dimension, then it might not be able to, you might not be able to dismiss a spell. The only way to fix that, though, would be to change spell data to include a dimension variable. Which is easily done. Just gonna stick a to-do in there. Gonna keep that in there, just, you know. I do not already have a value here, I think. Okay, so set custom name. No, this not spell name. Let's see, I do have getters for that. Yeah, I have a has and a get. If I could type it in. Now, what is your problem? Oh. Where is my brain today? There. Why do you still have a massive problem? There you go. Okay. Now, once we've altered that information, and by the by, if we did have a system that just shot across an NP tag compound, which would include whether the spell was dead and its new custom name, as well as everything else, it would potentially cause problems because of desync. Essentially, if there was something causing the client to lag, for instance, when they send the message, the MBT data that they might have might be a few ticks out of date. In which case, it would artificially alter the conditions and activity of the recipient on the server. So that's kind of why we're trying to make sure that we only send across the information that we actually need. Now granted, because that part of that is a kill switch, might cause problems if we're not careful. But okay, so now we just make sure that the actual server has the right one. So we want set spell by ID, so that we can make sure that the server actually has the right thing. Let's see, where is get spell by ID? There you are. Okay. Good, happy. So essentially, just to make sure that there's actual proper parity, we need to make sure that the server definitively actually sets this value, because it might have changed. It shouldn't, but it might have. You never know. So it's also always worth making sure you got that there. So if spellin.id is lower than 0, or spellin.id is greater than next ID, which is to say, if this is not within the set of spells we have ever had, then just return, because we know we're not going to find one. So for int dim and dim to spells dot keyset, having an actual dimension value inside of spell data would make this a lot easier. Okay, by that point we've found what dimension this thing is in. So let's see. Dim to spells dot get. Dim gets us the list. I believe that's a list, is that okay? No, that's a map. Can I convert from spell data? Oh, it is just a list. Okay. I've retooled this so much it's gone slightly out of my head as to what everything is. Okay, remove that. And add our one in. And then return. Also might be worth actually making sure we set that value. So put dim spells. Dim do be spells though. Okay, so now we ostensibly have a packet that will do basically all the things we want. So we just need to make sure we actually write these values. So the first thing we are definitely gonna need, again, is gonna be the spell ID. Come on, you've gotta have an integer, surely. int, right there. Set spell every 50 does not read. What is set? Why are there two values for set int? That's my question. Is this the right packet buffer? There's a question. It is Minecraft, okay. Interesting. Hang on a second. Ah, set and right. That's the distinction. Right int. Because apparently setting would be... Writing and setting are, in computational terms, the same thing. But okay. And the thing you need to remember is that when you are making buffers, well, when you're making packets like this and you're setting stuff to buffers, they come out in the exact order that they went in. So your write and your read need to be very alike. Now my question is... what exactly... do I have to be using? Don't tell me there's set, get, and there's write and read. Oh lordy. You know, you'd think after all the years I've spent modding Minecraft that I would have noticed that that was a thing. But boy, is that dangerous. That's literally... that's a potentially very deadly linguistic problem right there. Write and read are the same thing as get and set. They're exactly the same. But evidently they're using both of them here. Oof. That's dangerous. Okay, now we also want to write how many characters are in spell name. Because of how they are stored, how strings are stored in buffers. Yeah, max length, right there. That's the value we need to know. Okay. Add that to our packet handler and it should be good to go. Then we can give it a shot. Active. And if you want to know just how much work goes into making sure client and server are synced up, there you are. There's so much. Okay, so I've already tested and made sure that we can actually push buttons inside of the entries. So let's open up the code that goes into all of that. And there's our buttons right there. So, if the dismiss button is pushed, we want to send dismissal packet to server. And if the edit button is pushed, we actually don't need to do that, we just need to tell the spell to open up the appropriate window for the player. And then if we want to change the name, we do that down here whenever we save the name element, which is generally called whenever you lose focus from it, which is, yeah. Okay. So, we have spell data in here, yes, good. Data, get spell, edit. We should have a player. Do we have a player? We don't, but the parent screen should. Except it's probably private. Yep. There we are. And then give that our data and the world the player is in. Okay. So packet, handler, send to server, new, packet, active, spell, update. And we want to get the ID. There you are. So that should then send a 0-length name packet to the server, which will then cause the server to register it as dead and store the updated thing. Okay. And then down here, packet handler send to server new packet active spell update data.getID and this.namefield.get text, which should be the new name. Let's also make sure that whatever's in the name field is actually a greater length than 0, or else we will potentially accidentally send a cancel thing. You theoretically could just fill it up with spaces, but yeah. Okay. Let's add some sysouts here, just so we can see stuff happening. We should be able to see stuff happening almost immediately, but just in case. So that would be spell, get spell. There we go. Okay, that should be ready to go. Let's find out. Let's see just how many bugs I've created in the first half hour. I can already think of at least one potential failure point here. Also, YouTube's been suggesting me a lot of clips from a show called Silicon Valley, so I apologize if my dialect becomes very jargony. Do let me know, I will slow down. Bundle of cracks, aren't I? You've been recommending you a lot of gacha life, and you've no idea why? Huh. Okay, let's just get rid of this one. Because we closed the client and rebooted, and this is a dev environment, we have a different UUID every single time, so we don't recognize this spell as being one of ours. But let's see, best example for this would be Wall of Fire. Because it can be dismissed. But okay. Right, gonna keep you guys on that screen, so I can come over here and keep an eye on the console. Let's start by trying to rename it. Renaming spell Wall of Fire to Wall of Fred, which appears to have taken quite nicely. Very good. There was a slight delay there, but it appears to have held off until like the next update. Very good. So now we have the Wall of Thread right over there, and if we hit dismiss, it should go away. Hopefully. I'm not seeing a dismissal packet being sent, however, so the Wall of Thread lives for the time being. But hey, that's progress. Wall of Thread, yay. Don't know why you'd call it that, but you know, now you have the option. Let's just see if we can do that again. Call it a literal firewall, why not? There we go. There's about a 3-second timer. I specifically built it in like that so that it wouldn't just be constantly doing it. But good, okay. So, we just need to figure out... Yeah, and you can see the custom name also displays when you're actually looking at the spell effect, which is good. There is no entity there whatsoever. Ton of entities over there with a lot of particles that I need to figure out, but no entity right here. Which means it's one less thing that the server needs to worry about. And it also unshackles us from having to have them be loaded, just as long as we actually update them manually on the server side. But still. Essentially, we just created our own entity system to a vault. Okay, so yeah, we've discovered that names are working, dismissing is not. So that's a thing that we need to fix. Like the way I talk, jargon or not. Well, only the eldest sages know why. Okay, so... Question, why are we not getting our dismissal packet? Possibly it's not realizing where things are. It does with it. It clearly knows where the name field is, but it might be off target for the buttons. Voice good. Easy on the aggression in my chat, please. Thank you very much. There's plenty of that in the world as is. Okay, so... let's add a sys out here and see if we actually are detecting the click. You gotta press forsake. There's a bunch of like little nitty-gritty details that I could put inside of spell data really to create an even more versatile spell system. For instance, I could actually have the spell data store a map of who it has tried and failed to affect and when, because there are some spells which, if you succeed on your save against, then you can't be affected by them for like X amount of time again. Currently, spells try to affect you 20 times per second, so that, yeah. Resistances in that regard don't tend to work very much. Okay. Look away from the giant pile of, okay, we can't click that, obviously. And I am not seeing any alerts saying that we are actually managing to do this. Also, it detected Wall of Fire as being a rename, so we evidently need to change that. Okay, that's fortunately we can always dispel our own spells. Helps if I'm in creative mode. I wonder if I can just get if I can remember how to make how the, button. If I can remember how to make a wand, I can just make a wand of greater dispel magic, and then I never have to worry about that situation. Wand of D. Thank you very much. You can always dispel your own spells, actually, so I pretty much don't need to worry about it. As long as it's there. It's MBT data, either way, so you can figure that out. Or at least I can figure that out. Nobody else, but yeah. Okay. So, let's check that code, because that's probably the main source of the error here. Okay, so we'll just get ourselves the ranges and where it thinks the mouse is. And see if that's the problem. This is what I mean when I say that UIs are very fiddly. Ordinarily, during low moments, I would ask the chat how they're doing and how their week's been, but I think I can probably guess, so today I will not be doing that quite pointedly. Okay, so when we try to click a button, it'll call this function to check if we're clicking within the boundaries of a given button, and then we can check exactly where it thinks it is. Your week's been alright? That's good to know, just me. Okay, so if we click right here, we have so many things. Let's see, 248 versus 223 to 273, which should be in, okay. Y59 versus 51 to 101, so it should recognize that it's actually in the range, though. Interesting. And let's see what it determines from that. Doubt this will update, but who knows? Yep, no, gotta restart. Here we go. It's not a permanent solution, but the one was a lot helpful here. Today's been pretty sweet. Well, that's good to know. I hope everyone's had a good day.
Lindy Witch.
Yep. Oh, thank you for that, guys. I hope everyone's day has gone well, but I know for a fact it will not for a lot of people. But I hope. Okay, so, for those of you just joining in, we are currently doing some diagnostics, trying to figure out why the buttons in our active spell screen do not appear to be functional. But we have gotten renaming of spells working, so that's a start. Should we get like a scroll of Circle Against Evil while I'm at this, really? Save me hopping in and out. There you are. And probably a Wall of Fire. Haha. Because I have to be survival mode to actually access the screen, so it makes the most sense. So that's Alt Fire, there we go, okay. So, testing for that, good. So if we click here, testing for Okay, so it determined it is within the element there. Okay. But of course the button isn't enabled in this spell, so we shouldn't be able to click that at all. Oh right, I mean, survival, I need gunpowder. There we go. Okay. Within elements, true, correct. Let's see, that's for button 0, which is the dismissal button. Okay. Dismiss button is enabled, so it should be pressing dismiss. Interesting. So the coordinates are fine, but there's something else that's causing issues. Interesting. Thereby preventing us from actually handling this. Okay. Well, thankfully, we can now just do this. And off they go. You automatically succeeded. It's rolls made to dispel your own spells. Yeah, so there is an enabled value. It's just not able to check if it's actually doing that. Interesting. If we get rid of that part, and we just say that you can click that button even if it's not enabled. This will mean, like, remember how I said earlier that you need to make sure you have good quality checking on both client and server side if you really want to avoid attacks? This is what I mean when I say that you can create some potentially hazardous behaviors if you hack up, if you only have client-side checking of inputs. So for right now, a lot of things don't do a single thing if you try to edit them when they shouldn't be editable. But I think the default for that is just to it's just literally open close backwards. So it shouldn't ever do anything, but it's something to be wary of. Recently got to rewatch Rise of the Guardians. That's the one with Australian Easter Bunny, if I'm remembering correctly. Am I remembering correctly? Do let me know. Okay, so if we click this, we clicked it, still nothing happened. Interesting, it is registering that we clicked it, it's just not actually handling anything. And the spell is still very much there. Very curious. I think I might see the line. Okay. I think I might see where this is going wrong. Okay. So instead of that, we check if we should, and then we try, and then we do the thing. And then we just return true. I think. Yeah, that's literally, that is literally the thing that we check already. So actually, we don't need is with an element for that. We just need to check this, and then return true, if it says so. Hopefully that's gonna work okay. Does Namefield have a similar thing? I have a quick question. Seems fun for the time being, at least. The Jack Frost that Tumblr loves. Is it the Jack Frost? The fact I like. There's a lot of great characters in that movie, honestly. Also, is it Jude Law voices the Boogeyman in that as well? Wonderful casting there. The books apparently call him Puka. You enjoy the Yetis in the workshop? Yeah. Okay, no buttons, that would do, good. Okay, so, dismiss. Apparently it's still calling within element. But it's probably only calling that for mouse released, at a guess. So, why are we still not seeing things? If we're clearly detecting that part. Guessing that releases a... Nope, that's just a void. Okay. Does that check? Nope, actually it doesn't do anything. So does that. Let's just fix it for the time being. Yes, I know, it's within element is now never used. Let's see, is it enabled, is it visible? And there's the mouse parts, which we already checked to make sure. This is literally just the same thing that we do. Greater than or equal to button Y, but nonetheless. Can you select some variations of elves, mainly the ones in the Santa Claus the movie, with Yetis as toy crafters? I mean, yeah. Reminds me of, Mummy the Dragon Emperor, which was okay. there's a lot to take in with the there's a lot of world building in that movie that was not the least bit represented in the rest of the movies. It's like, okay, magic is like a widespread thing because apparently it existed in both Egypt and China. Like it apparently is a really widespread thing. And then there was also the fact that Yeti, like abominable snowmen, Yetis actually exist and they live in the Himalayas and everyone's kind of like aware of this. Or at least all the, you know, the people who would be in position to actually care about it. I have got this on fire. Yes, I just can't apparently succeed on my save. This is where I need like the greater dispel. Let's see. Entity data at E type equals item. Just give me a primer on how that looks. Because Lord knows it's been a while. Let's see, wand, yes, okay. Tag inverted, yes. Spell, dispel magic, okay. And... greater D, please. And the name in this one is just greater dispel magic. Okay. So here we want to say tag spell greater dispel magic. And somehow it still thinks it's that. Okay, how did I heck that up? Oh, because it's inside the item. That's fine. There we go. One of greater dispel magic now. The dispel magic has been greatered. There we are. Perfect. Sticks? Oh yes, I'll be back in about 10 minutes, everybody. See you then. Welcome back, everybody. So just before we left off there, we were trying to get a button to work, essentially, so that we can make that go away on command. Which, turns out has some issues somewhere. Because that surely is still there. Now we've detected that when we click the button, it correctly identifies that the click is happening inside of the space of that button. For some reason, though, we're not actually getting this being called. I have a sneaking suspicion that I know why. So mouse pressed is happening, apparently. Okay. So that does get called. So the next question is, why is the button not doing the thing that it should be doing? Because by all rights, when you call mouse pressed, we should see pressing mouse and then all of these other things. But if the problem's not in here, then it has to be somewhere else. The good news is, when we figure this part out, we're basically done. Basically. I just need to do some QA and all that stuff. So, cast spell, check our active spell screen, and click. And click. Okay, we're now seeing pressing mouse. Okay, interesting. We see pressing mouse, but we only actually see clicked slot 0 when we click onto the text field. That's interesting. So why do we not see pressing mouse when we're here? Answer, it probably thinks that like, the chunk of screen that is the slot is this away. Like, it probably thinks the actual thing is significantly more narrow. It does start around here. You can see that much. Yeah, it starts there, but it ends about there. So we can't click the dismiss button, because the dismiss button is off the screen, essentially. Okay. Nonetheless, that gives us some idea of where to look to fix that up. So, let's see, we know that part's happening. Clicked slot is happening very rarely, but that's fine, because this is a conditional, so if it detects nothing happens, then it just doesn't output that message. So in that case... let's see, is mouse Y within the slot boundaries? Which would be the top and bottom of the actual list, which is fine, we know that part works. So then the next question is, where do you think the X part ends? Let's see, where does L come up? Comes up right there. Okay, which is the relative X and the relative Y. That's based on J, which is essentially the far left side, I think? I think that's the far left side. There's definitely problems here, which is causing the whole thing to go wonky. It might be related to the parent screen width, because the width of this is not necessarily the width of the active spells list. We just take parent screen.width over 2 to mean the middle of the screen. Let's clarify that a little bit. So yeah, call that slot center. Actually, no, that should be slot far left. We actually don't even really need to care too much about mouse pressed, because as long as we know the mouse X and the mouse Y, we have the right thing. So we could just feed zeros into that and it'd be fine. That clearly is the relative X. And the relative Y. Okay. Always name your variables helpfully, everybody. Okay. So if there's nothing there, if we fail after we get about halfway through the edit button, then we know the problem isn't with finding whether or not we've clicked a given slot, it's right here, get slot index from screen coordinates. Most probably. My brain is in full debug mode now. Playing do be vibing though. There's a reason I do a lot of programming. I like programming. It's fun. It's problem solving, and there's frequently, not necessarily always, it's problem solving, but it is frequently something that produces an end product that demonstrates that you've solved the problem. And what's more, you know exactly what it's doing at all stages, all steps. Like it is beautiful problem solving for me there. Okay, let's just get rid of that. Thank you. Bring up one that we actually own. How am I owning a circle against evil? That's curious. How am I owning a circle against evil that ends in about 13 minutes? I don't see a circle against evil anywhere. We have a phantom spell, everyone. Where has this come from? It's registering as me, because I can edit it. Which I'm pretty sure I told the thing to not do. Yeah, if we're not the owner, then we shouldn't be able to edit it. So it thinks we're the owner, so why does it think... We just got here. Okay. A little strange. Really, really a bit strange there. I wonder how that could happen. Yeah, that's like it's like a 3-hour spell as well, so where does this come from? That's bizarre. That's very bizarre. Anyways, so what we were actually trying to do here... Okay, clicked slot 1. So the verticality is correct, it's just not quite getting the boundaries correct. Okay. Yeah, I have no idea where that's coming from. It might be detecting that I'm being affected by it, but then it shouldn't allow me to edit the name. That's very strange. That's very strange indeed. Okay. So, we know it's the x coordinates in get slot index from screen coordinates that's causing problems here. So, we need to check if pos x is greater than left, or well, if it's less than left or greater than right, in which case, then we received nothing wrong. See, if it's greater than left and less than right, then we figure it out. Okay, yes, good. So if it's lower than left or greater than right, we know it's wrong. In which case, we no longer have to care about that part. Okay, so that is once again plus y minus this dot top. Okay, that calculation, amount scrolled minus 4 should be essentially equal to our vertical position in the list, regardless of how much we've scrolled. In which case, L, which is k divided by the slot height, becomes our index in the list. Okay. With you so far. So then our problem comes in figuring out where we are in the list. Because clearly, the right side of this is not accurate. Parent screen width over 2, minus list width over 2. Yep, that'll be this. I should note, yeah, there's definitely some bugs in the UI, if you hadn't guessed already. We also haven't seen it much, but the scroll bar, A, appears partially in, like, inset, when it should be on the side, and B, doesn't work. At all. Scrolling is currently broken, so you can see, like, 5 or so spells. More because it actually overflows the, over the UI, so it's like 6 or 7 actually. UI is not my specialty. So okay, left part works just fine. And we know that we start on the left at 0 and we go to the far side, which is the entire thing. So, what's going wrong? We know the vertical part's fine, so we don't have to worry about that. Scroll bar X is currently an unchanged value that we need to actually modify to actually move the scroll bar. We'll just ignore that, because currently we're not dealing with the scroll bar. Wrong button. Refactor. Rename. Call that list Y, I guess. Okay. So if index is greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0, and list y is greater than or equal to 0, and index is lower than the size, which is say it's not going to overflow the array, then return index of y is minus 1. Okay. And let's have a sys out here as well, just to let us know that we've detected out of bounds. So we can detect if that's the reason that we're not seeing clicking halfway through the edit button. Long and short of it is, this is what happens when you try to adapt code that's used for like a screen-wide display into a chunk of the screen display. The reason I decided to do that is that I wanted you to actually be able to see things changing when you're editing stuff in the active spells screen. Because if you have to go into a full screen view, make changes, and then come back to check if what you've done is right, and then have to go back in to like change something more, then it's a hassle. So the whole point of a UI is it's meant to be usable. So the more user-friendly I can make all of this, the better. Okay, do we still have a phantom spell in here? No, we do not. Okay. Good, we're here. Grand. Okay, so we're not seeing chords out of list bounds. That's interesting. But we are seeing it over here, which is definitely not right. Yeah, the slots are clicked over here, and then they're clicked over here. I think it's the right width, it's just actually got no X offset. When it should be like a quarter of the screen over. Okay. So we know that part's... We know this isn't the problem. Like, it's always getting the right slot, so it's actually fine there. The fact that we have no, the fact that we have no scroll bar is kind of negligible at that stage. I will keep these renames just to make them... just in case I have to come back here. Okay. So, that means when mouse is getting clicked, we're seeing problems because our mouse is getting clicked and we're not knowing exactly where we actually are. Mouse clicked, I believe, is getting called by over here somewhere. Spells list dot mouse clicked right there. Could that be it? What's going on here? It's got the right width, it's just starting at the far left side at 0. So how is it not finding where this should be? Very curious. Okay. Let's just add some variables here. We know the Y value is fine. Don't need to worry about that. See, that's screen mid right there. So that should be the left-hand side of our list. And then that should be the right. So let's see what values that turns out to be. Okay, that's correct so far. Mouse X 322, 341. Okay. Thankfully it's responding live, so I can actually test this easier. Always helpful when it does that. -1 because there is no... there is nothing else. Okay, so let's get a spell in here and see what we can come up with. Okay, right. So we're definitely detecting correctly if we are in the boundaries of the list, but the clicked slot is still returning erroneous values, so we know where the problem is. Hey. Grand. Yeah, we know exactly what the problem is now. Okay, let me just explain slightly. So, every time we click the mouse, it is printing out the X coordinates that are being fed into everything. It's then telling us the left and the right side of where the of where we are clicking to, and it is fully able to actually identify the correct positions of where the mouse needs to be to control the list. Okay, but clicked slots down here, the thing that tells us which slot we clicked on and thereby tells that slot that we've clicked on it, is evidently having some issues. So we know where the problem is. And it is somewhere in here, despite the fact that we just gave it the exact same thing. Okay. $85 to $341 is not the value that we gave you. I think. Interesting. Okay, so 354 it thinks is somehow within that radius. That should be an or, that could be why. So mouse, how are we seeing mouse clicked? Yeah, it stops at 249 for some reason. We stop receiving at about 249, 250. Which might be because that's actually around about the default width of the screen. Okay. That gives me another idea of where this might be going wrong. So it's calling that from in here, draw slot. Get slot index from coordinates, is mouse Y within slot boundaries? Yes, that's fine. What's the width that we keep giving this thing when we initialize the list? Yeah, we tell it that it's 250 wide. So, it's capping that at the width of the list. So 250 is the maximum X value that we can give it. That's why it's not able to go to any further into the edit button. Okay. Next question, where is that cap happening? Handle mouse inputs, okay. Event X times width over display width. That's a weird one. That doesn't seem like it would be causing any problems right there. Let's see, what's the values here? The slot index, the X and Y position, the list width, the slot height, the mouse X and the mouse Y. Is it selected? And the partial text, so that's not actually relevant. So why does it stop tracking us after its own width is exceeded? That's the question. It's not the list width either, because that's 256. It's deliberately stopping exactly at 250. Okay, mouse clicked. Yep, there's that. We're pretty sure we override those. It's mouse clicked and mouse released, so yeah, pretty sure we do. Right there. Because we need to use the parent screen because we're always in the middle. It's the only reference to those there. But width fin does come up to here. Okay. Slot index, we're already overriding that, so that's irrelevant. Draw the screen, yeah, relevant to us. Handle mouse input is, I believe, the major thing we're currently looking for, isn't it? No, it's not. Okay. That references its own width, not the list width, so that is probably... That's probably where it's going wrong. Thankfully, we can, however, override this. And that will hopefully fix it up. So essentially, because we always go into the middle of the screen, our position on the screen is fixed, but it's not directly on the left-hand side as it would otherwise be. That creates a few problems and a few challenges occasionally. How you doing in the chat? You still alive there? Do let me know. Let me know if I've bored you to tears. Yep, that's fine. Okay, that's the mouse Y being checked. I don't know why it's doing that again, on the basis that it just did that right there. This will be the X and the left and the right values. Here, it's literally just repeating the get slot index code for the most part. But it needs to use the different values, so I guess that's reasonable. So if the event button is 0, which is to say left click, and mouse event state, get event button state, true or false I guess is pushed. Mouse by there, yep, good, good, fine, yes. And then we need to check that we're measuring from the middle of the screen and not the middle of the list. So if mouse X is greater than or equal to left, which previously would have been 0, and lower than or equal to right, which previously would have been the list width, now it should actually manage that. Hopefully. Let's find out. Yeah, there's a lot of challenges that come when you're trying to move a scrollable list from being an entire full screen thing to just the middle. Just a chunk in the middle, no less. Okay, here we go. So not there. Here, yes. Still stopping at 250, interesting. I don't suppose this would be kind enough to tell me that it's handling mouse input right now. Doesn't seem like it. Pity. It's always a lot faster to debug when the system tells you what you're asking of it at a time. Is there anywhere else in here that's touching width? And it's doing interesting. These are the exact same things here. They could literally just... Yeah, it's identical. They could actually have just reused those numbers. Why they don't, I don't know. But I didn't program Minecraft, as bizarre as that might seem. I've written a lot of very wonky code occasionally. Nothing quite like Minecraft. You're gonna complain? That's fine. I know you're going to complain. Okay, so let's see what is flag here used for. Flag 1 to be exact. Appears to be clicking in list. Okay, so now we actually know a little bit more about this. And that's the scroll wheel right there. The D wheel. Let's see, index is lower than this the size, yes, that's fine. Lower than or equal to the right, greater than or equal to the left, yes, good. Index is greater than or equal to 0. And list-wise greater than or equal to 0, good, yes. And then you click the element, and presumably you do nothing, of course. So what's... That might be wrong. Because it's done differently elsewhere. Also, get list width isn't correct in this context, but it's fine. It's close enough. Okay. Let's try that. I have a feeling this isn't actually what I should be fixing up, but... We're hunting down every time that the thing thinks it's the screen, is the width of the screen, to try and figure it out. Obviously, it's kind of a significant thing to be able to click the left hand, both the left and the right hand side. Okay, let's just get rid of that. Thank you. Still not sure exactly where we ended up with a phantom circle. It's very strange. Still ends at 250. So somewhere where get slot index from coords is called, is being loaded to 250. It's only calling at that stage. Which is, naturally, the problem here. And that's preventing our button from being pressed. So let's find and see if there's anywhere. Let's see, draw slot calls it. That's not a problem. Mouse clicked calls it. But obviously it's calling that regardless, so... Parent screen dot width. Yep, that's fine. Nope, still there again. Good to know. Sets the left and right bounds of the slot. Interesting. That might help, actually. Scroll bar. Yeah, that might actually help quite a bit. Okay, if we take that and we use the parent screen. That might fix this, actually. Let's find out. It's worth a shot at this point, because it's like, we're nearly 2 hours in. So that should be this dot parent screen dot width over 2 minus this dot size or width, list width over 2. So help me if this fixes it. Tempted to just start copying the bot just to feel something. Hey. You mean Pretzel, Moobot, or Pixel? We technically have 3 different bots here. Unfortunately, I think, Dusty, if you tried that, you would, like, Moobot would then sit on you for trying to post a link without permission. Okay, so now it should know its boundaries better. So let's see if it works. Okay, we're getting detection there. That's good. So can we dismiss next? Apparently not, still. Okay, well, that's progress, at the very least. Actually, if that's working now, I wonder if I even need all these parent screen references. I might not. Like, a lot of this might now actually be surplus. How much can I break just by taking all these out, I wonder? Probably quite a bit, but we'll see. Okay, that's all fine. That's all good. Not entirely certain why I even have this here. Because I think it's just overriding one. Okay, yep. And inside of here... Yeah, we still got those. Okay. will copy Moobot. Hmm. See what we get. And also how much I've just hecked up. Okay, well there's a slight bit of error right there. We're getting that part. Okay, good. Can't click out of it, but it's a start. And pressing mouse in slot 0 ends here. There. If anything, that ends even further. Hmm. Okay, so... possibly because of that... Yeah, ends more or less right there. Oh boy. We're right on the edge of getting this. Here we go. We know that when it's not in full screen, the right should be equal to about 340. Should be. How much gun? Wow, I've used nearly half a stack of gunpowder already. 88 to 338. Okay, that's close enough. But still stopping there. That's interesting. Okay. That's determining where the middle of the screen is, which is fine. That's pretty much doing exactly what we're looking at. That's also not related to checking out where everything should be. Yeah, okay. List boundary is 88 to 338. So why are we not seeing clicking? That's the question. I probably should not get rid of this for right now, just to be on the safe side. But at least it's closer. And then it's not starting over here despite all the stuff we had to change. Okay, I'll be back in about 10 minutes, and Lord willing, I'll have an idea of how to fix this. I'm glad we found this out before I, like, shoved this to a beta or something. Welcome back, everybody. Dear lord, this has been much harder than it had any right to be, but honestly, that's a lot of programming. So that's fairly par for the course for a lot of things. Right. So the major problem that we're having is that the mouse doesn't seem to be directed to the spells list in any condition wherein it is exceeding the width of the list object on screen, because it thinks, presumably, that the list is on the left-hand side of the screen and not centered. Now, we discovered that there is, in fact, a little bit of there is a function here to actually set it to be whatever horizontal position you want, but still seems to want to do that when we're dealing with the mouse. So, somewhere throughout here, there is still an problem. Now, I've been trying to take out references to parent screen width and see if that helps, and I've checked every reference to the screen width that I could find, and hopefully, it's good. We'll see. The boundaries that it's printing out whenever we initialize this object are correct, or at least are as near to correct as we need them to be for the moment. But the clicking doesn't seem to the clicking still doesn't seem to carry on through. So, we'll find out if I've hexed this up even more, or if it's magically begun to work and I have to figure out what to do for the next 50 minutes. Oh boy. I'm not sure which of those two options I want it to be, in all honesty. Okay, 88 to 338. We don't see any rendering problems. In fact, it's even tighter than before. So if we can select, good, that's nice to see. But we still don't seem to be able to click. In fact, we seem to be able to click even less. There's a problem here. Okay. We can't access the name field at all. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So let's see. Mouse clicked. Let's go to that. Let's just grab that. And that should call mouse pressed. Yes, on that entry. Okay, but mouse pressed didn't output anything for us. So let's include the return from that. Okay, that will at least tell us where we clicked, and from that we can determine if it was correctly within the boundaries, and if it clicked anything at all. Clearly, we can click the slots because the highlight, the selection boundary came up around it. Prime debugging kind of mode here. I figured this out, I'm gonna have so much code to erase from that class, jeez. Okay. Well, I think I see the problem. It's saying we're never clicking anywhere inside of it. The return is always false. If the return is false from super, which happens when it goes all the way through all of this and doesn't find anything, then we'd know we now need to reinstate our old code from here. I've been lucky enough that it'll... Nah, it's not doing it. Okay. And next question is, what is different about this? List left would equal just left, surely. Or at least it certainly should now. Left plus width over 2 minus list width. Oh, I see what that's getting. Okay. That's actually probably better. Not by very much. Better. And where's my get slot index? Okay. Because of the way that draw slot works, we can use that as a reference for if it's still trying to store anything. Do I prefer white meat or dark meat? I'm a fan of chicken. But I'm also a massive fan of lamb. A good piece of lamb is delicious. So I think I'm gonna... whatever lamb is. I think chicken is white meat, I'm not sure. Note to self, at some point in the future, make an adamantine version of the wand that cannot be crafted but also doesn't, like, lose durability. Lamb is dark meat? You've never had lamb, Dusty? Well, okay, maybe it's because I'm English, because lamb is a fairly common thing around here. But admittedly, the sheep almost outnumber us, so... Or such is the old myth. I don't know if that's true in the slightest bit. In order for the sheep to outnumber us, there would need to be something like 67 million of them. I'm curious. How many sheep in Wales? Close. How many sheep in UK? Answer... 22.5 million. So there's about a 3-to-1 between humans and sheep here. Roughly. Very roughly. This bra is not necessarily best fit for how deep the neckline is on this shirt. Anyways. Okay. So we are seeing that we are getting calls for that only as far out as our mouse goes on the actual screen. So that's good progress. Okay. So... why... well, that's good, because that means that we're actually getting the thing clicked. Next question. Why aren't we seeing it click properly? Like, if we saw it click, we'd have seen pressing mouse and slut, blah blah blah. And then we would have gone down to the name field, as well as to the... to the buttons. Are you updating live, or are you gonna be... You are not updating live. Okay. Yeah, we're not seeing an update at all there. Okay. I feel like we're on the very cusp of getting this to work. So we know the coordinates are right. It's just a question of why isn't it clicking? You're not confident in your ability to find anything larger than a rat. I mean... You feel like you would perish because you would hesitate whilst the sheep would not. I have a horror movie about fighting sheep. It's a pretty good horror movie. Well, that was filmed... That was in New Zealand. Hero. Yes, Dusty, that would be the movie Black Sheep. Predictably called. There you go. Thank you. Which is why I should dispel things before I do anything else. Clicked slot -1. Clicked slot -1. Okay, it's the calculation of which slot we're in. Yeah, because it doesn't know that we're over slot 1. Or slot 0, to be more specific. Okay. So now the problem is in finding this the slot index. Something's hecky with this. Let's see, left, which is the left-hand side of our list, plus half the width gets us to the middle of it, minus the list width itself, minus over 2, which is the chunk that actually contains the slots. Okay. So again, the left and the right of that. Position X is lower than the scroll bar X. Lower than the scroll bar X. I think I might know what's causing that then, because whilst we were offline, I added this. And I set that to the left, because previously when I've engaged the scroll bar, it was to the left-hand side of the list. But it's occurred to me that might just be because it didn't know where the actual list was positioned in the screen. So now it might work. God willing. A lot of... programming is like one of the ultimate things. Aren't I supposed to not be coding during breaks? Ish. Ostensibly, I'm supposed to be like turning away from my monitors and my lights and closing my eyes and resting a little bit, but I have literally been rendered horizontal by the flu before and still gotten work done, because I cannot sit idle very long. Okay, let's see if that reinstates our capacity to click. So yeah, it might mandate... The system that is in place here might mandate that the scroll bar be on the right-hand side and not the left. Which I'm okay with, for the most part. Okay. Slot 0. Slot 0, okay, well... That's in slot -1, okay, good. Slot 0. Yes, good, okay. And if we click here, dismissing spell wall of fire, it's gone! It only heckin' works. Hooray! Okay. So let's get a couple. And let's get a standard one as well. So many particles. Oh lordy, so many particles. Okay, well, as a player, I have hecked up, and I wish to get rid of some of these. Oh. Standard fire, please. Yeah, I definitely need to figure out the particles with these things. There's way too many. Lying becomes an infomercial. Lying becomes a PowerPoint. But at least it's a PowerPoint that I can fix. Wunderbar. Now the next thing that we need to make sure is working is the edit function. You saw there that there was an edit button visible. Of course, you can't actually edit the walls for the most part. But currently, there aren't any spells that actually let you do that, the exception being ones that require input when you cast them. So like a teleport spell, for instance, can ask, where do you want to go, if you're giving it something specific, but you can't, there's nothing that does that after casting. Like, you cast it, it starts working, and then we need something that actually functions, like performs a function that you can alter post-casting. And that initial, like, screen for teleport is actually, like... let me breathe. The initial screen for teleporting is considered to be part of the casting, essentially. Have you made more fire than you can handle? You need the dismiss button. With just a click of this button, you can wipe away all that pesky fire. Yeah. And who knows, by this time next week, you might even be able to do that from another dimension. Another dimension. But okay. So come here. Plug that over there. Did I not? Oh, I cast credit to spell magic because I have one. Instead of circle, that's why. So we should now be able to rename these. Yep. And okay, that's interesting. It also sorts it differently. Yeah. So yeah, we have these edit buttons, but we can't actually do anything with the edit buttons right now because we don't actually have a spell that would use that. And it's a little late in the stream for me to create one, but that part should already be hooked up, so it just needs to have a spell ID, and then it needs to go to just send a packet to the server. Which is also something I need to fix, because without the entities, we actually don't have any way to make those things work anymore. Those are all broken when we overhauled the spell system. Timothy New Vegas continuation when? Oi. Firstly, that game crashed so frequently. Like, just going in and out of buildings, that game would crash. Secondly, no one watched it. Like, no one. So, I don't really have any reason to bring it back, unfortunately. Have you made infomercial lying series when? Who knows? Who knows? Hopefully never, but we'll see. Yeah, sorry Dusty. I wish I could be in a position where I had both the time, energy, and, like, economic support to make series that don't have to be watched, but unfortunately no. That moment of confusion, yes, the wall of Dusty, over there. Because as you can see, it is hella lit. It's going away now. Hey, nice. Very good. Recently discovered Timothy content via Wither and you love this picked man? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, ever since Chaosville folded, there hasn't really been much opportunity to use Timothy outside of like the specials. Okay, I think there's a little bit more. Like that works now. Actually, that works a lot better. That I think is pretty much feature complete for the most part. We just need to make sure that we can. Well, first I'm gonna take out all the guff that we now no longer need. Yep, that's no longer relevant, as we found out. Nope, that's fine. Don't need that. Definitely don't need that anymore. And get rid of that. Don't need that, do need that line, though. Anything else in here that I can... anything in here specifically that is heavily commented out. There we go. Because Lord knows I do not want to accidentally some important code. Is within element is relevant now. Okay, so we've got pressing dismiss, that part works. Yep, dismissing, pressing dismiss, good, yes. Editing is the only thing, but we don't actually have something to do with that right now, so we'll leave that for the moment. That part's irrelevant now. Do I want to draw the background of the name field? Or just to say, do I want to draw the border around it when they're in it? I don't really think so. I don't really think so. So yeah, edit is the only thing that we need, but for that we'll actually need a spell. And as I say, pretty much all the spells we have that have UIs are... the UI is part of the casting, so we need a different spell for that. So... let's see, nope, not there. Magic effects. What's on my to-do list in here? Any ongoing effects? We take a look at Ice Storm. It's like, we've got like half an hour, let's look through spells and see what we can theoretically add now. There's Ice Storm. One of the, like, a variety of the illusion school would be very accurate, would be very appropriate for that. The trouble is I need to make very, very, very versatile rendering. It's like, if you use an illusion spell to create a fake zombie or whatnot, firstly, everybody has to treat it like an actual zombie. But secondly, it has to be basically an idiot and do nothing. So, that goes back to a lot of problems that we had with making companions. Ice Storm, Great Magical Hailstorm, duration 1 round, actually, so, nope, that doesn't qualify for this. Interposing Hand and the Other Hand spells are actually more like companions or pets, as it were, than they are actually spells. I guess you should be able to control it, like, remotely. Floating disembodied hand moves to remain between... a large magic hand appears between you and one opponent. This floating disembodied hand then moves to remain between the two of you regardless of where you move. Yada yada yada. That is... not the one I was thinking. It's not interposing. Grasping? Something like that? There's a bunch of hand spells. Mage Hand, of course, we have. Spectral Hand, that's a different thing. Forceful. Yep. I think that's what I'm looking for. Helping. Crushing. A lot of these could literally just be the same thing, but with like a different variable set in out of it. Just like display a really big and purplish Mage Hand and decide what it does then. A ghostly glowing hand shaped from your life force materializes and moves as you desire, allowing you to deliver low-level touch range spells at a distance. On casting the spell, you lose 1d4 hit points that return. That's really, again, more of a pet, but the next thing would be how do you give it? How do you deliver low-level touch range spells? We do have a definer for what a touch range spell is, so we can cast touch spells from basically anything as a consequence. So how do you determine that you can cast how do we cast a spell through that? All of our spells currently are held inside of items. So your spell list, your scrolls, your wand, that sort of thing. So there's that. Do we then just say that if you indicate an entity, the hand uses its spell onto that and then returns whatever item remains to you? Hand returns to you and hovers. So that means it's just always around you. So you could just like that could just be like the item it's holding, essentially. I don't think that's quite fit for what we're looking at here. It's neat, but it's not quite fit. Functions like interposing, except that the forceful hand pursues and pushes away the opponent that you designate. Tree attack is well roped. Directing the spell to a new target is a move action, but in this case that would just be pointing it. So that would be another, just using the companion markings. You create the ghostly image of a hand which you can send to find a creature within 5 miles. Out of curiosity. So within 8,000 blocks. Yeah, 8,046 blocks. Imagine that. Doesn't mention how big the hand is, but I can only imagine it's like at least the size of a Roomba. The hand something about the sentence, the hand then beckons to that creature, is a little like, does it just like go up to them and do that? we have enough digits on our mage hand model to do that. The hand beckons to that creature and then leads it to you if the creature is willing to follow. Oh boy, when the spell is cast, the hand appears in front of you, then specify a person or any creature by physical description, which can include race, gender, and appearance, but not ambiguous factors such as level, alignment, or class. The hand streaks off in search of a subject that fits the description. Again, that's more of a cast thing. Let's try searching for that real quick. And there's the crushing hand, which again is just pointing it at somebody else. Well, these are just... Okay, hello, whirlwind. That's a start. Animate plants. Animate rope, animate objects. Mage's sword. Okay. Creates a powerful cyclone of raging wind that moves through the air, along the ground, or over water at a speed of 60 feet per round. You can concentrate on controlling the cyclone's every movement, or specify a simple program. Directing the cyclone's movement or changing its programmed movement is a standard action for you. The cyclone always moves during your turn. The cyclone exceeds the spell's range. It moves in a random, uncontrolled fashion for one of your rounds and then dissipates. Which is another thing I need to remember, is that we now have a concept of concentration spells. Now, the way that works is that you cannot cast a spell if you have a spell up with a duration of concentration. That was determined by others and is the standard in 3.5. I don't 100% know if I want to keep that, but I do know that a concentration spell, you can only have one at a time running from you. There should not be any means by which you can make somebody else concentrate on a spell for you, nor should you be able to get more than one. And if you take damage from any source, there is a percentile chance that you will lose that spell and it will end. It will be dismissed, essentially. So it's basically a spell that will last forever, but if you get hecking wrecked by the Wither or something, then you might go home to find that it's stopped working. That sort of thing. I don't know if any of these are concentration. No. Okay. Yeah, and that's just, again, crushing hand working again. Yeah. So, Mage's Swords. Sword attacks its designated target once each round on your turn, so again, it's just marking that. Animate objects can be made permanent with a permanency spell, which is another thing I need to work on. Each such animated object immediately attacks whomever or whatever you initially designate. An animated object can be you may animate one smaller object, meaning yada yada yada. You can change the designated target or targets as a move action as if directing an active spell. Okay. So in that case, what we would say most probably is that you you edit the thing, and then you select, and then like you open your screen, you go to that, you click edit, and then you set it to like define targets, that kind of thing. And like everything that every spell that can be edited has its own edit window, essentially its own edit UI. So at that point, it would probably show you a list of like viable items in the vicinity, as well as their size, and from there you'd be able to select however many you're able to cast or control at once. Now, the definition of an object here is a bit fuzzy, because in Minecraft there are item entities and there are blocks, and we can do things with entities very easily. With items, that's fairly easy. That's fairly straightforward. We just essentially make a mage hand that's just holding them and rendering them. Not very much unlike an item frame. Blocks is a bit harder, but I think under this context, what we would say is that the object is an item. Ideally, an item on the ground. Cannot animate objects carried or worn by a creature. Yes. How we would then determine like their attack damage and such, then probably just quite as normal as if you were hitting somebody with the item. But yeah, the concept of somebody like dropping, say, 9 different swords and casting animate objects and just like flip, go my pretties, is kind of entertaining, I have to say. So I might put animate objects on my list here. Okay, so yep, that's on our list. Animate rope. You can animate a non-living rope-like object. The maximum length assumes a rope with a inch. Where? The maximum length assumes a rope with a 1-inch diameter. Now, problem here, which is actually the same reason that I haven't actually implemented any kind of snake, is that it's really hard to make something that is snake-like or rope-like, as it describes here, in Minecraft and not have it look really clunky. A good example would be the Naga from Twilight Forest, which is just a long series of cubes. It's not great. Could you theoretically animate a dead snake with that spell? If it's non-living and it hasn't been risen as undead, then I guess, but I think by object it usually doesn't mean a corpse. Well, actually no, a corpse is considered an object in most cases, so I guess, yeah, I guess you could, as long as it was actually dead. Okay, the possible commands are coil, coil and not, loop, loop and not, so you can give one command each round as move action as if directing an active spell, so that would suggest, yes, that you could use the edit screen to actually, like, change the setting on the rope. So, this would be a good example of that again, but I don't think I'm going to be implementing rope just yet. I'm also not really sure how you'd use rope. Like, I had an idea for manacles, which are basically an item that if you right-click onto a player, their like depending on whether you're aiming more at their feet or like their upper body, then like their reach like gets reduced to near zero, and their movement speed gets really restricted, that sort of thing. But then I realized that you could just do that to basically anybody that was AFK or just anybody in like a tight moment. So there had to be some way for them to get out of that, which means lockpicking, but not everyone's going to carry lockpicks, and nobody necessarily wants to just get like restrained like that, just out of nowhere. Like, if there isn't some significant limitations to it, you can literally just walk up to somebody, like, in a PvP fight, right-click them with manacles, and hey, you can't swing your sword anymore. It's just like, hell. Anyways, plants. You imbue inanimate plants with mobility and a semblance of life. Each animated plant then immediately attacks, so it's very much like animate objects, essentially. It literally used the statistics for animated objects. Animate plants cannot affect plant creatures, nor does it affect non-animate material, that's fine. Alternatively, you can imbue all plants within the range of integrated ability to entangle and ensnare, which then replicates entangle, but at a much higher caster level, essentially. Effect lasts for 1 hour per caster level, which is now a thing that's very reliable with our spells because they're server side. So they're not like it used to be that if you cast a spell and then went like 1,000 blocks away or something, the chunk would unload and that spell would keep going long after it had any business being there. But no longer. Now when it says an hour, it's an hour, whether you're on the server or not. As long as the server is online, it's gonna be an hour. But yeah, so there's that. Concentrate on controlling it, or specify a simple program. So theoretically that would be... I'm trying to think, how would we accomplish that? Concentrate on controlling the Cyclone's every movement, which would just be mark to move where it goes. Or specify a simple program. I think Animate Object is so far the best example I've seen of what this could be. No direction, location. Control winds. Locate creature, wouldn't that be handy for like when a fox or something escapes? Guards and wards? Find path, not white. Nope. Like, there's a lot of things that are like you can change them meanwhile. Are you allowed to send me like 20 asks about the pigged man you need to know? I mean, you can send them, I don't necessarily have answers. Detect hostile intent in Minecraft, oh lord. Imagine that. Pyrotechnics and prestidigitation are a good example of this, I think. Summon Swarm, that's just like any regular summon spell. Trace Teleport is an interesting concept. Like, detect teleportation. You sense the use of any effects. This is a psionics, but it's an interesting thing, because currently when you cast a spell, there's no residual to it. It's just gone. So detect magic doesn't actually detect anything right now. It doesn't exist as a spell, for the most part. But if we were going to make that, then we would need to have an actual, like... We would need to leave something behind at a position where a spell was, essentially, and have it actually contain some useful details, like the School of Magic, and its like caster level and its level, that sort of thing. And then from that we could determine like a color gradient, I guess, from its center to its outermost reaches, and then Detect Magic would allow you to actually detect the magical aura and such. The problem being that detect magic also detect magic items. So we would need to leave such a like a breadcrumb trail from entities that just happen to be wearing enchanted armor, for instance. Or had it inside their inventories. It would just be such a pain in that case. But it would be interesting. Okay, control winds. You may choose one of the 4 basic wind patterns to function over the spell's area. Wind strength. Yes, okay. Do you get to... It doesn't say... It does not say if you can change exactly how, like, it goes through. The new wind and wind direction and strength persist until the spell ends, or until you choose to alter your handiwork. So, in that case... That's an edit button, again, in the active spells. So that's good. But we don't have a concept of wind at all, currently. Like, you alter wind force in the area surrounding you. There is none. Guards and wards. Powerful spell is primarily used to defend your strongholds. Up to 200 square feet per level. The ward protects 200 square feet per cast level. The warded area can be as much as 20 feet high and is shaped as you desire. You can ward several stories of a stronghold by dividing the area among them. You must be somewhere within the area to be warded to cast the spell. The spell creates the following magical effects within the warded area. Fog fills all corridors, obscuring all sight, including dark vision. All doors in the warded area are arcane locked. Webs fill all stairs from top to bottom. Where there are choices in directions such as a corridor intersection or side passage, a minor confusion type effect functions so as to make it 50% probable that enterers believe they're going in the opposite direction from the one they actually chose. One door per cast level is covered by a silent image to appear as if it were a plain wall. In addition, you can place your choice of one of the following 5 magical effects. Dancing lights in 4 corridors, magic math in 2 places, stinking clan in 2 places, gust of wind in 1 corridor or room, suggestion in 1 place. Hui. A dispel magic cast on a specific effect, if successful, removes only that effect. Successful mage's disjunction destroys the entire guards and wards effect. This is really interesting, and I kind of would want to use it with the structural analysis code that we wrote for the hives, the changeling hives. Like, that'd be pretty sweet. Defining that could be cool. Lion could do a stream that was just reading a phone book, and it would still be great to listen to. I disagree. I disagree quite strongly. Sometimes when you read D&D spells, you can just feel your brain shutting down. Yeah, a lot of the big ones are a lot like that, yes. But could you imagine having a spell like this active and actually being able to set where and what? Like, this is probably... It doesn't mention that you can change it after. But... pretty nice, nonetheless. What now? Dusty, were you not here for the Changeling Hives? Were you not watching my stream when I was making Changeling Hives? If so, you got to miss the point where I broke down after like 2 weeks of developing it and actually said, on camera, what if we just broke it down into a series of cubes? Okay. So, when you hit the end game of the Witch's Default Pact, it spawns in a tile entity at all the positions where you progress to your pact, and it places that tile. That tile entity is called a rift, which is the center of a changeling hive. Now, there's a lot of work still to get the hives fully up to snuff, but one of them, the indoor variety, has to know the boundaries of the space it is within. So consequently, it spreads out a whole ton of creep really quickly, and it uses that creep as a measurement of the air, of the, like, how do I put this, the surface area, the boundaries, the skin of the water balloon, if you will. And then it takes that shape, that resulting three-dimensional shape that it now has an idea of, and it breaks it down into a series of cuboids, so that it knows, essentially, some decent idea of the structure that it is sitting in. And then it removes all of those cubes that it can't use because there's insufficient solid ground, or they're too small, that sort of thing. And then it assigns purposes to those as rooms in the hive. So, your memories of the changeling hives were discussing who in the Lang versus Tubians. A valid discussion, a very valid discussion. But yeah, this is possibly some of the most complex code I have written in a very long while. But especially because once we actually got it to work, we had to make sure that it was actually, like, not going to crash a server with, like, how long it would take to do. But it works now. It's able to actually identify rooms. It's still a little clunky. We can do tidying it up a little bit more. But yeah, so we've got the volume handler, which detects the entire volume. And then there's the box room generator, which goes through that and, like, figures out where all the contiguous cuboids are. And then we assign those rooms. It's nice. It's fun. It's really freaking cool to watch as well. But yeah. So let me just quickly hop onto my Discord and check where my list is. Let's see, where are you? Where is my list? There is my list. Okay. Alright. So, what things do we need here? Implement the Kirin. Yep, I think we've done that. Complete pact system with at least 3 default pacts. We do have 2, because we haven't implemented the... We haven't straight speaking implemented the Phoenix yet, but we can add a default pact. That part's doable. Okay. Add a disguise for the untyped changelings. That was part of why we did the disguise revision for the elf, I think it was, or the Sylvan kind of disguise for the witch, so we now have a basis to draw on to make that, so we can do that next week if we like. Let's see, finish the changeling hive rooms and functions, which will include the Broodbringer, which is essentially a xenomorph queen. We could also maybe do that next week. I think we'll start though with the untyped changelings, and then we can try the quadrupedal model, and then we can get to the Broodbringer. So there's going to be a lot of changeling work. But that said, when I have finished refining or fixing up any missing details in the active spell screen, there will be a new beta release for the first time since like July of last year. So keep an eye out for that. We passed 100,000 downloads on this mod quite a while ago at this point, not like a week or two. Pretty sweet. Never remotely expected anything that I would ever do to get that kind of popularity, but here we are. Nice Discord servers. Hey, they're tidy. But anyways, hope you've all enjoyed. That's all I've got for today. I hope you've all enjoyed. My next stream is Thursday at 9, where we'll be playing some more Among Us, possibly still with the World of Madness crew, possibly with some community members. We'll see. Maybe a bit of both. Who knows? And then on Friday, we start a brand new horror game. Yeah, stay tuned to find out what that is. And then on Saturday, we should be back to normal with the carousel, playing some random games with the patrons. That's patreon.com/lying to keep me fed, housed, and watered and all sorts. And I do, of course, still make videos on youtube.com/remotecomic. They have been very sparse the past few weeks because a lot has been happening in the last few weeks. From things which actively prevent me from recording, like lots of noise, and other things that are just massively stressful and energy draining, that sort of thing. But yeah, we should get back to videos fairly soon. And that's all. Hope you've enjoyed. And I'll catch you all as ever. And next time.